Okay, we're going to take a little venture into graphing. And I'm hoping that you had some experience of graphing in recent years. If not, that's okay, but hopefully you had some ventures into it. So we're going to talk about functions and graphing. So this is just like the introductory to functions and relations that we are getting into. So functions in graphing. So let's do some graphing first. Okay, so in graphing, you want to be very careful first. So you want using a piece of graph paper. So since we're using a blackboard, I don't really have the graph paper, but hopefully you can get some, and then when you are doing graphing, you have that with you. But if not, you got to be very careful. So what I'm going to do is make a piece of, try to make an accurate graph if I can. So if I go like this, okay? So kind of make it straight up and straight down. Don't make it curve. Remember, these lines go on forever. So make an arrow. Make an arrow. Make an arrow. Make an arrow. Means you keep on going. What we always call when we have a graph like this, especially in our 2D, this is a 2D graph, by the way. This is probably what we would call a 2D graph because it's length and width. Okay, we're not doing 3D, which you would have to add another axis. But this axis here, this horizontal, is always going to be one kind of axis. It's always going to be your x-axis. It's always going to be your x-axis. Okay, well, if this is always your x-axis, this up here is going to be called your y-axis, or axis. Doesn't matter. So, let me kind of give you maybe that'll help you out a little bit. Okay, so you have your y and your x is always. Okay, this is your orientation. Now, we want to be very careful this next part. Okay, so we want to make our dashes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now each dash means one unit. So we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can say that one's 5. We can go up and say this one's 5. Okay. Once you get over here, do you remember we go negative? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but negative 5. Okay? Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5. Remember, this has how many? So this graph here, I want you to kind of put this, if this is your x-axis, quadrants. Quadrants means that this graph that we did, this graph has 4 quadrants. It has 4 quadrants. And what that means is that everything, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay? So quadrants, this has 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's always in that direction. So Quadrant 1 is always here. Quadrant 2 is always here. Quadrant 3 is always here. Quadrant 4 is always here. Always. You can kind of almost look at it in a counterclockwise fashion. And that will be important later as you get into higher graphing. Okay? So there's your quadrants. I want to know more information about those quadrants because when I start to graph, I want to make sure I'm in the right quadrant. So, remember, parentheses, what goes first? X or Y? Remember, you're always going to do X, comma, Y. Always. Always X first, then comma Y. So X, then comma Y. So what goes first in this graph? So this is going to be positive, positive. This one over here, hope you're ahead of me on this. This is going to go negative, then positive. Okay. What about this one right here? Negative, negative. What about this one here? Positive, negative. Okay. So, everything in quadrant 1 is positive. Everything in quadrant 2 is negative, positive. Everything in quadrant 3 is negative, negative. Everything in quadrant 4 is positive, negative. That's what I would hopefully you keep on. But remember the center? The center, which is this guy right here, is always 0, 0. So 0, 0. And you call that the origin, right? This is called the origin because this is the center. So there you go. There's your quadrants. Now, what if I wanted to do some graphing, some graphing of this? And this is something that we're going to be practicing. So let's do some practice. 1, 3, 2, negative 3. 0, 1, negative 3, negative 2, 4, 2, 0, 0. Okay, those are just 6 examples. So let's try to do these real quick. So I'm going to erase some of this. You should not erase this. Maybe make another graph. Okay. 1, 3. So it looks like we got positive, positive. So 1 over, up 3. Okay. So A. 2, negative 3. Okay. 0, 1. 0, at 0, 1. 0, 1. Okay, so that's C. Negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. E, 4, 2. 4, 2. That's what we do to graph. So remember, we always start with the x's and then do the y's. Always. Always x's, then the y's. Okay? Hopefully that was a refresher and you need to practice this if you don't know the graphing. So remember, so two things I want you to remember. One, remember your arrows on your x's and your y and your x's and your y's because they go on forever. They go on forever. Also, second thing, remember you always do the x's first, then the y's. Okay? And I think that's it. Have a good one.